So here's what happens, right? You get all your gear and you go out to paint and you look at the light and you go, it's flat, it's boring. I went out, Kathleen, with CW Monday one day, says, I can't even see three values. I'm not doing a painting. So what are you going to teach us today?
I am going to show you how to look at landforms and then use your own understanding of light and atmosphere to change the time of day, change the weather, and make something look even more interesting.
So you're going to teach us how to invent light.
Yes.
Oh, that's going to be fun. Okay, you guys, this is going to be good. Kathleen Hudson is our guest. Let's get this show officially started.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhoads. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhoads.
Welcome to Art School Live. I'm Eric, one of my favorite people in the world, and one of my favorite painters in the world is Kathleen Hudson. And look at her work. She is a rock star, pretty amazing. If you could learn to paint like that, quite frankly, if I could learn to paint like that, I'd probably not do what I do. She's really, really very, very accomplished. And you can learn how to do this. And she's going to teach you some of it today. We're going to learn about inventing light or inventing weather. So this is going to be really a great session. So make sure that you stay very close because this is going to be good. It's helpful. You know, every Art School Live teaches you something different. We're here every weekday at 12 noon, and we've been here for 5 years since COVID began. And if you watch any 5 programs, you'll get the confidence to realize I can do this. I can learn how to paint. And we will teach you, of course. So let's get right to Kathleen Hudson for our lesson. Kathleen.
Hello there. Well, welcome everybody. I'll give you a wider view of the studio first so that you can see a little bit about what my setup is. You can see I've got some studio paintings back here because I have a couple of shows coming up. And I will show you some examples of the invented light. So here, the dusk painting from Crested Butte, that one, that was pretty accurate to the time of day. But this painting in progress over here, you can see that is the one at the mountainside. That is invented. So it was not, that's not a reference photo that I had that was from late in the day. And so I had to, I used a color palette that I became familiar with from Painting from Life, of warmer colors with some gray purples as the cool tone, and was able to kind of transfer some of the landforms I saw, even some of the cloud shapes, into that warmer color palette. And I've been playing around with that a little bit because I love Thomas Moran's work and noticed that he often has this glowy, warm color palette, whereas my plein air paintings skew towards blue. So for me, this is about pushing myself to to use a color palette that I really like, but don't necessarily see a whole lot if I'm painting midday outside. So I've got, this is actually a new setup for me. I've got a giant magnetic whiteboard, and I'm using it to, I've got these heavy duty magnets that I've attached little panels to it with, you can see there. So I will do some small color studies using photo reference. You can see it behind there, and I think we'll also have it on the screen, but I have midday reference, and I will be changing some of the weather patterns, making some of the clouds go lower into the landforms. And it's fun to try this out on a small scale first, because you never know if it's going to work. I could totally bomb this today, so fair warning. But yeah, I enjoy doing this just because it allows me to push the drama in some ways that can make for really compelling paintings. And it's, these are things that I would see outside if I could be on a mountain summit at all times of day, but sometimes it's just not realistic. The painting on the photo reference that I'm using today is from up on Trail Ridge Road in the Rocky Mountain National Park. And you can be up there at sunrise and sunset certain times of year, but it is a little bit challenging just because you're at elevation. Sometimes the weather rolls in quickly, and it's not necessarily the safest place to be at nightfall. But yeah, you can use your imagination to use what you know about sunset, sunrise, about dramatic atmosphere, and just use use the landforms that you see during the day, but change the light. The key thing to bear in mind is you want the light direction to remain consistent. So you have to start by picking a place for the sun. So I'm in this first one, you can see my reference image over there. I'm going to have the sun coming in from this angle. So I want that to remain consistent. And if I have the sun implied coming in from this direction with some of the forms, but then I have backlit clouds, it's going to clash. It won't look consistent. But you pick a place for the sunlight, and then you can come in and get creative with it. I do a warm underpainting because this will be a warm toned painting. Got some transparent red oxide and a little bit of yellow ochre. Feel free to ask any questions about the process. These are just little this one's a 6x8 panel, and it's oil primed linen. So I'm going to give it an undertone. I want to have low clouds coming in over this landform, and what that will do is it will serve to help me break up this shape right along the top of the mountains. If I don't break that shape up, it'll create a path to bisect the canvas a little bit, and that it's less of a deal if you have some interest, as there is here, but that's something that you really want to look at if you have a strong horizontal line. You want to break up some of those shapes. So I can go ahead and pop in some darks. I'll pull a mix that I had. It's sort of a warm, deep purple. And start applying form here. There's a cut in the rock back this direction. And I can go ahead and apply that. So I'm creating light and shadow here. So I dropped in a light value first, and now I'm going to add a shadow value. And I can also, if I put in some small lower clouds, I can create some cast shadows on that hillside, and it'll look pretty evocative once I start laying in more color. And you see, I'm just using a big flat brush to do all this. It doesn't have to be very detailed. I'm looking at big shapes. I'm thinking about value a little bit, but I'm not super worried about composition because I'm thinking more now about the color patterns and trying to make the lighting look consistent. Composition is certainly part of that, but I can always refine composition later. So I'll get some of that sky value in. I'm going to push some purples into the sky to imply that what we're seeing is taking place at sunset or sunrise. And a lot of these are colors that I had left over on my palette from working on another painting. So I'm not getting too precious with any of it. I do want to think about shapes here. These shapes are a little bit repetitive, so I'll come in. I want the main light to be on this shape, I think, so I can Might wipe that out a little bit and then put some more darks on the second mountain. So I'm pulling some ultramarine blue into this purple mix. The magnet setup is working okay. It's a little, got to adjust it a bit.
If you guys have questions, make sure to pop them into the comments. Also tell us where you're watching from. Kathleen, thank you for hosting while I was away.
Oh, of course. It was such a joy. People had really great questions throughout, and I really enjoy getting to see behind the scenes. The folks that I brought in to talk to were mostly, people I've painted with and have known for a while, and I was amazed at how, I hadn't actually had a chance to watch them paint step by step, because typically when I see other artists out and about, we're at an event, we're painting a quick draw, we might be talking to collectors at a plein air event, to students at an event like 𝗶𝘁, and so it's actually rare that I see another artist's work in progress. And I didn't realize that until I hosted Art School Live. It's really fun. You always learn something.
Yeah, well, I get to see everybody paint. It's a lot of fun.
So I'm looking at some of these edges. I want to keep some smooth. So I'm looking at the landform. So this hillside actually has a kind of gentle meeting with the mountain, the mountain behind it. It's not, this doesn't really sit in front of the second one in a stark way. There's a nice gentle slope there. And of course I could change that. I'm reimagining the light. I can also reimagine the form, but in this case, I like that. So I'll keep it. And that's something I'd encourage you to do too, is, use the landscape for inspiration, but don't feel like you have to, like you have to be literal in your interpretation of it. You are the creative director, you're the boss, right? So you can do whatever you want with your painting and use it to test things out. So when I'm out in the field, I usually try to paint the light that I see, because one of the benefits of being out in the field is that you get to see accurate light, accurate color, and you can see things that a camera can't necessarily capture. So I don't do this kind of thing outside as much. I mean, there's going to be some painting from memory involved. If I try to paint say I paint a sunrise painting, and sunrise light doesn't last very long. So any of you who have done a sunrise painting on location will know that there's necessarily going to be some invention involved, but you can, but it's a great tool in the studio when you want to play around with things. So we've got two cuts in these hillsides that I'm realizing they look pretty similar in the photo in terms of their form. So what I'll do is I'll look for differences and then exaggerate them, just so you want to create variety. So I'll take this one and make it a little bit smaller. So I'll bring that light side of the hill back in, create that cut again, and then it's kind of a gentle slope towards the top. I want to go ahead and indicate where the brightest light on that mountainside is, and it's going to be the angle of it that's catching the most direct sunlight. So that's going to pick up a whole lot of light right there. I'm going to push a little bit of quinacridone gold into it. That's a color I don't always have on the palette, but it's really useful for amplifying sunlight. This is what it looks like in the tube. Let me pull it up a little bit. So yeah, it's a really warm gold color. I used to use it all the time in watercolor, and then only recently picked it up for oil. But yeah, I'll step back a little bit. This is fun. You know, it's such a small painting that I can play around with it and keep adjusting things, and I don't feel really stuck. It's not a big deal to make a transition or change a form. So that's one reason I wasn't, usually if I'm starting out a big painting, I'm thinking a lot about composition. I do a value underpainting, and I really try to nail the composition before I proceed to do anything else. And here I obviously wasn't as concerned about that, just because I can change things so quickly with with this very small canvas size. Good to get some practice in doing this too, because I will be painting outside in Crested Butte at the end of the month. So the Planner Painters of America is doing their annual show there, and I have seen all the images because I posted their social media accounts, and it is going to be a spectacular show. So we'll have 150 new paintings. Look at this cloud shape. So yeah, if you're in the area, I would love to see you there.
I'd love to be there.
So that opens August 1st in Crested Butte at the Crested Butte Center for the Arts. And yeah, it's a great new venue too. So there's a lot to look forward to.
If you guys have questions, post them in the comments, please, and make sure to tell us where you're watching from. Teresa is asking, what is your purple mixture?
Yeah, the purple is magenta, and then ultramarine, and in some cases ivory black. So I use ivory black as a shortcut color, and it works beautifully for that purpose. This is the color of the magenta. You can see how rich that is. Obviously, I've toned it down a lot to paint this. But yeah, you can tone it down pretty quickly with an ultramarine that pushes it towards purple, or an ivory black will push it towards more of a dark neutral. So yeah, you can see I also got it all over my hands somehow.
Here's a question from Rob, who says, if your scene is drenched in sunlight, but the land is quite flat like a beach, is it possible to darken areas and still make the painting believable?
I think so. I think one of the best ways to create interest on a really flat landscape is to imply a sky that has, if you have a sky with broken clouds and sun coming through, you can actually create a pathway with the eye, for the eye to go back into it by, creating patches of light and shadow on the land. So, doing something like this where you're inventing weather is actually great for, it's great for a subject like that where there isn't quite as much, native interest necessarily.
What size brush are you using?
That is it was a size 9 hog bristle flat, and then I just pulled up a size 4 to do a little bit of finesse work. Size 4 filbert. So I'm going to push a little bit of blue in there to give it a contrast. I could just stick with the purple and the kind of the purple and orange palette, but I do want to push some of the purples towards blue in places to create interest. And then I'll also push some of those yellows towards orange. So I want to keep my palette harmonized. It's close enough in these color tones that I will I'll be able to keep it fairly harmonized while still making it interesting. You want to have some some shifts in the hue. So I'll create a little bit of form with these clouds just by painting shadow shapes. Now I want to imply that it's that there's some mist, that it's not because cloud shapes are often really soft, right? So you're not unless you're painting this giant cumulonimbus cloud, you're not going to have incredibly sharp edges. So that's something to pay attention to. One thing I'll look at too is what I want in this foreground. Do I want to put it completely in shadow? In my reference image, it's in sunlight, so it's actually quite bright. But when I squint, I feel like this image would be better framed if I implied that these mountains come into, kind of dump out onto a plane, and there is more shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in some darks. These are just some dark brown mixtures that I had on the palette from an earlier painting session. And I can try that to see if that frames the painting well. I could even break it up a little bit. And so I can imply that there's some sunlight reaching down here. The warmth of that brown is going to bring it a little bit forward and leave the shadow, the blue shadows near the back. So that's helpful in terms of creating atmospheric perspective. So I'll step back. Even though this is a 6x8, I can still learn something from stepping back from it. That's something that you can never do too much of. If you're stepping back frequently in the studio, you're always doing yourself a favor. I do want to create a little bit more of a cast shadow over this, this foreground mountain, and apply that before moving on to the next one. So I want to get a couple of these in just to show you how you can do these quickly and loosely. You don't have to get precious with it. And the point is to explore some distinctions in lighting and explore some possibilities for changing things around. It's still loosely the same mountain shape that you see in the reference images, but I've changed enough about the lighting that it looks like a very different time of day.
Susan is asking, how do you decide where to make a darker shadow and a softer, lighter shadow?
Some of it is just playing around. It's intuitive. So the sharper highlights, for instance, here, I did that on purpose because I wanted that to be, so here there's no cloud obscuring the edge of the mountain, and I want that to imply that it's catching direct light from the sun and along a sharper edge. And if I want to soften that edge, initially I had softened it here to imply that it's leading up to that second part of the landform. I can make it soften even further by carrying a light up into that. If I like the way that looks, I can keep it, or I could also choose to instead have a softer edge down here and like reintroduce the hard edge up there. I can try both ways and see what I like best. So it's not like you can kind of play around, push and pull things, and see what makes the best composition, the best, and especially given the colors that I've chosen, what makes the best and most compelling painting given the color palette. So I'm going to put a cast shadow there. You see how these clouds are coming down over this mountain in the foreground? I am going to soften this edge up here and then put a little bit of a cast shadow to indicate that there's, the light there is not as stark as it is here, because here it's getting filtered, that sunlight is coming through clouds. There's a cast shadow. Here, there isn't a shadow because the light's breaking through directly. And sometimes you'll see that. One of my Crested Butte paintings, I'll pick up and show you guys here in a bit, but I lucked out and saw something with really dramatic atmosphere like this, and I didn't have to make it up. I was driving down after dropping off my husband and older kids and mother-in-law to go skiing, and so I had the babies in the car. I have 2-year-old twins, and well, they were 1 at that point, but I just pulled over into a drive and took some photos out my car window of this gorgeous scene where there was a big sun break onto a mountain. And I painted it pretty much as is. Like, I did some editing, but I really didn't have to do a whole lot to amplify the drama in that scene because it was already just so so beautiful and dramatic. So I'll make sure I vary some of these light shapes coming in, and I'll grab some of my warm yellow mix. I've got Indian yellow, the quinacridone gold. I think I pushed a little bit of magenta into it, you can see. So I want to get to another one too, so you guys can see a couple of these. Stepping back, is there anything about this that bothers me? I don't have to, again, this is really just to test out a color palette on a landform that I see. There's not much that I would change. I'll reintroduce that highlight. There's a cut in the mountain right here that I sort of enjoy. I think it breaks up a shape that would otherwise get a little bit boring. And so I'll go ahead and put the cut in and see if it looks believable. If it doesn't, I can always, readjust. So that's about as far as I need to go with this piece. If I finished this little study and got to a point where I was thinking about scaling up, I could keep testing out things, like smaller shapes with this study. I could keep testing out different cloud shapes. Like I could change this cloud and have it carry some more light further this direction. You see how these colors are pretty similar. I could also push this a little bit more towards red and push, I would want to keep it in the same color family, but I could distinguish between the landforms and the clouds a little bit more. One of the easiest ways to distinguish between those two types of subject in the landscape is just edges. So clouds, like I said, have much softer edges, and so you can create, you can use the fact that oil paint here is wet to create a soft edge in a cloud. If you're using watercolor, you can do a wash first or spray down your surface and keep your edges soft that way.
All right, well, what are you going to do next?
So the next one, I will pull up a different.
All right,
while you're doing that, I could use
the
same reference photo or use a different one. Do folks have a preference on this?
Let's do a different one, just to
okay, a different reference photo. So I'll pull up.
I'm going to do a couple announcements and then I'll be right back. Kathleen, thank you so much. Our guest today is Kathleen Hudson, and she's a rock star. We're really happy to have her and proud to have her here. We have some cool things coming up. I'm still brain dead. I think I'm still jet lagged. The one that's coming up soonest is Gouache Live. Gouache Live, if you don't know what gouache is like watercolor, but it's opaque and you can paint it like oil paint. And a lot of people are using it to travel and, of course, just painting with it. Scott Christensen is using it a lot, and everybody's excited about gouache. It's the hot medium at the moment. And so we decided to do a one-day event, Gouache Live, which basically for about the cost of 2 cups of coffee at Starbucks and a couple of Danish, you can go to Gouache Live, except those Danish will leave you after 24 hours, and this information will stick with you the rest of your life. It's a one-day event, full day. Scott Christensen, Michelle Usabelli, and Angela Sung, and many, many, many others. Great teachers going to be teaching all day, and I'll be hosting it. So that's August 23rd on Saturday. Join us for Gouache Live. You will not regret it. It's spectacular. And even if you don't paint gouache, you're going to learn about it. It's really fun. And we'd love to have you there. We also have my next marketing event. We did one in January. We had thousands of people attending. We had a lot of people said that it changed their lives. That's nice. We like to hear that. We want you to make money. If you're selling your art and you want to sell your art, we want you to do it very profitably. So our goal is to teach you all the marketing techniques, business techniques, things like that, things that we oftentimes ignore as artists. We have a new one called Art Business Mastery Day, and it's coming up in November to help you plan your new year. It's hard to believe we're even thinking about that at this stage because it's still July, but put it on your calendar, November 15th for Art Business Mastery Day. It's a full day. I've already got some guests lined up. It's going to be spectacular. And you can also get the replays if you go to artbizmastery.com. You can buy the replays from last year, which will be valuable because we're not repeating any of that information. So make sure to join us, artbizmastery.com. Last but not least, I love painting, and I love painting with friends. I was just in China, made a lot of new friends, painted with people pretty much every day. And I just love painting with other people. It's a lot of fun. And so I have created these retreats. I've been doing them now for over 15 years. And we just get together for a week. We paint together. We all get better at painting. There's no workshop, no teachers. We have sometimes famous people attend, and sometimes they're just regular people like you and me. But the idea is that we're all just equals. We all paint together. We have a lot of fun. It's limited to about 100 people. And we're running up on our next one. It's called Fall Color Week, and it's going to be in Door County, Wisconsin, which is 4 hours north of Chicago. It is on Lake Michigan. It's spectacularly beautiful. They say the fall color there is among the best in America. There's lighthouses, there's farms, there's beautiful cliffs with rocks, and it's spectacular. So, and then we sit up at night, we paint portraits. We're taking over a resort. We're right on the water, so you could literally paint out your room window, get up in the morning and paint. It's going to be fun and spectacular. That's September 28th through October 5th. That's called fallcolorweek.com. So make sure you join us. The question in the chat, are we coming to St. Augustine again for our winter art escape retreat? We are not. Maybe someday in the future, but this year we're going to Hilton Head Island, which is, we like to shake things up and move things around a little bit. So Hilton Head Island is going to be winter art escape this year. Okay, now back to Kathleen Hudson.
Hello there. So
Hello there.
Here we go. We have a 6x8, and this was a color study developed from a reference photo that was midday, totally different light. Now I'm going to use another reference photo. I'll pan over to it very quickly. So you can see on the big monitor there that it's a panoramic of Pikes Peak in some cool weather. This was actually taken from our back deck at our house. So pretty much, if you live in Colorado Springs, you're going to have a view of Pikes Peak. That's how it works. So I'll pull this down a little bit. And this is a little 4x8 cut piece of oil primed linen that's mounted on a panel. And so the time of day in the reference image, let me pan over to it again so you can see it. The time of day is closer to midday, maybe early afternoon, and it was really stormy. Lots of blues, but I'm going to test out what would happen if I skipped the blue palette and pretended this were happening at sunset. So this is going to end up being more backlit since the sun is coming from this direction. You can kind of locate the light wherever you want. So don't worry about making it accurate necessarily. Because this is Pikes Peak and I live in Colorado Springs, I will actually make sure that the sun is in a place where it should be. So yeah, people know the mountain here, so you can't get away with totally fudging it. But I will create a
show it
shadow
somewhere else.
That's right. It could be a mountain somewhere else. No one, don't let the a goal of accuracy overrule your artistic sensibility. Accuracy is way, way overrated. So this is a point of the year where the mountain was coated in snow. So this is what, here's my color that I've chosen for snow and shadow. And then I'll pick a darker tone to be the rock in shadow. I push some blue into some browns. And I can change this a little bit. It looks a little warm to me, so I might push the purple slightly more.
And you're mixing your own purple.
I am. I'm using ultramarine blue and magenta.
Yeah. The magenta is an expensive color, isn't it?
It's an expensive one, you said?
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's, let me see what, it's mid-range. It's series 3, so it's not like a cobalt, but
I have a tube of magenta that was like $65.
Oh, really? Wow. Was it a large tube?
No, I wish.
Yeah, you can also, you can use like a dioxazine purple. This tube ate it during a plein air trip.
I tend to think that purples that are pre-made tend to be a little bit too strong.
They are quite strong. So that's one reason that I don't usually keep them in my plein air kit, because I don't want them taking over when I'm out in the field. When you're out in the field, there's limited stuff you can do to make big corrections on a painting if it starts to go sideways. So I'll go ahead and get those darks in there. So doing silhouette light and making up a backlit or silhouette lit scene is a lot easier than making up direct light. Because when you make up direct light, like with this piece, I'm having to think about all the different, the curvature of the land and how that would change the color as the sun is coming on, is hitting a landform that's, that moves. Whereas here, everything is in shadow. So it's a little bit more about designing graphic, kind of the graphic pattern of light and dark. So it's really, it's like a no 10 at this point, right? Because I've just got, well, look at that. So this is my new system. I need to get a more of these strong magnets. These are much weaker fridge magnets. And so what I'll do is I'll move this one up, and that'll hold it in place better. But yeah, I did this because I am going to paint some paintings that are not on stretched canvas. So I'm going to have to create a system to clamp things down. And I wanted to try magnets because that'll be the easiest if it actually works, but we'll have to find some higher powered magnets.
You might try Velcro or something.
Yeah, Velcro could work. I've seen people do, just use heavy duty tape. I was hoping to avoid tape if I could.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, here's the shadow side of Pikes Peak, and I like the clouds in my reference photo. I'll pan around to that again so you all can see it. There's some dramatic clouds. I'll take cues from that, but again, because what I'm painting is going to be backlit, I'll have something pretty different going on. So I am going to grab a clean brush. This one is also this is a Ultimate Filbert, and it's a hog bristle brush. So I will grab some of my warm, lighter tones that are mixed with titanium white and Indian yellow. And I will go ahead and paint some of these clouds. I might actually push the white even more. I'm painting on a white background, so it's whatever I put down is going to be a little darker than the background. I didn't tone this canvas. Life might have been easier if I had toned it a little bit, but in the interest of time, I'll try to get some color on there so you guys can see where this is going. Now, when I design these clouds, I'm going to be thinking about linear perspective a little bit. So the clouds are going to flatten out as they get closer to the horizon. They'll have more dimension up here. And then let me think of a shadow, a color for the shadow sides of the clouds. I might push it a little bit warmer to imply that there's some sunlight filtering through, but I'll keep it in this sort of purplish gray family. Let's see.
This is fun inventing.
It really is, and it forces you to be creative. And I think it's liberating too, because I'm not feeling any pressure to make a masterpiece right now, even though there are quite a few of you watching. But it's what I'm doing is just kind of playing around with different color tones and seeing what happens. And I might end up really not liking this, or I might end up liking it 30 minutes in and then messing it up. But that's okay, because the point is I've learned what color palette works, what could work for a bigger painting. And I've, you know, it's a great excuse to kind of push your imaginative ability and not feel tied to a reference. I started off painting very tight, very ultra realistic watercolors when I was a kid. That was my first, you know, my first foray into painting was with very, very detailed watercolors, and it did not lend itself to me being really creative, because I was very concerned about you know, making sure I didn't make a mistake. And I've really gained a ton of freedom thanks to plein air painting. I feel a lot more confident about just letting things happen quickly sometimes, because when you're out on location, there are going to be curveballs. There's, you know, weather changes, light changes. You have to paint kind of faster anyway, and it's a great education and confidence builder to paint outside. But when you're in the studio, you can do some of that same thing by getting creative with your reference and making sure that you don't feel like accuracy is the end all and be all.
Well, and it's a lot easier to mess up on a small canvas. You can, first off, you can experiment a lot faster on a small canvas than you can a big one, and work out all the kinks on the little one before you do a bigger one.
You can, yes, absolutely. So yeah, I can play around on this, and really, you know, if I end up bombing it, I've only sunk, you know, I've sunk less than 15 minutes into it, and so it's not a huge deal. And even the ones you bomb, you learn something from it, right? So it's not, like, you don't have to count it as a loss. Imply that cloud comes overhead. It's going to frame the composition a little bit to have that cloud carrying on. And I can adjust these cloud shapes so quickly because this is a small canvas. I can just lay more paint on top. I can scrape if I need to. You know, sometimes it's fun to get a palette knife into it with cloudscapes. So you could grab some of the colors that are on the palette and go ahead and get the palette knife involved. Looking at it, stepping back, I think I could probably push the snow color and shadow even a little bit lighter, and maybe push it a little bit towards blue. No, I don't want it to be dramatic. That might be a little too dramatic, but what I can do is grab my brush and kind of mix it in. But yeah, to give the indication that we've got some snow. If I want to lose this sharp edge, I could also carry a darker cloud down into there, and that'll keep the focus in here. But there's so many things I could play around with. And of course, if you go back and look at the reference photo again, I'll drop it in the comments later, but it's wildly different from the reference photo. I could also create a highlight on the edge of the mountain if I wanted to imply that it was catching some sun. So like say like that. So yeah, there's so many ways of playing with light and atmosphere. And I would really encourage you guys to do that. Give yourself the time and space to do that in the studio, and get out some small canvases that you don't care about too much, or tape off a bigger one. And yeah, give yourself space to do some small color studies. So here's some that I've done that were from on location. So this was 𝗂𝗏𝗃𝗃. This one was from 𝗂𝗂𝗱𝗀𝗃 Point at sunset. And these are not very finesse. I mean, let me see if I can pull this up in front of you. These are not, I did not achieve a high level of finish on these, and that's fine. They were there as color studies where I was just curious about patterns of light and dark, looking at warm versus cool, and trying to create a composition out of those things that I felt resonated. And you can also really try pushing the color with skies. This is a 12 by 12 painting, and it's got a lot. I really focused on pushing the yellows in here, and I wanted to see how much chroma I could put in there without making it look garish. And it was kind of fun to see. I mean, it might look garish to some people, but I wanted to kind of push my limits on the color palette. So yeah, these are just some examples of things that you can do to mix it up in the studio and free yourself up to be more creative.
Terrific. Well, Kathleen, this has been absolutely wonderful. I don't think we're going to have time to get to that third panel, but this has been very helpful, helping us learn how to invent light. Thank you so much.
Oh, of course.
You're a rock star.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, you all follow me on Instagram. It's Kathleen B Hudson, and I do teach. So if you want to join me in Colorado Springs in September, I'll be teaching here. I've got a couple in California in October, and then New Zealand in February. So, and then Texas, I think in April. So I'll be heading through your state.
All right. Well, when you come to Texas, give us a call.
Yes, will do.
All right. Thank you again.
Sideways.
Okay. Bye-bye. Our guest today was Kathleen Hudson. And if you didn't learn how to invent light, you weren't paying attention. I want to remind you guys that we got some things coming up, but we have a free gift for you. And if you'll just pull that up, it's 201 essential plein air tips. And if you're new to us, grab one of these. Just go to pleinairmagazine.com/ebook. And if you have not subscribed to this program yet on YouTube, even though you might be watching on some other platform like Facebook, please go to YouTube, look up Art School Live, and that way you'll be sure to get it. And you have easy access to over, I don't know, 5,000 shows or something we've done for 18 million people. And you can learn to paint on this channel for free. And then, if you want to go in depth, we have videos from Kathleen Hudson and many others. I don't know if we have any of those videos we can show from Kathleen right now, but just go to painttube.tv. You can get Kathleen's video, Creating Dramatic Atmosphere in Landscapes, which is fabulous. It's on instant streaming or DVD, and her waterfall secrets as well. Absolutely fabulous learning. And Kathleen's a great teacher, so you're going to enjoy that. So go to painttube.tv for those. Kathleen, again, thank you for being here, and thank you guys for watching. We will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Feedback Friday, and we also have Gouache Live coming up. Don't forget to register for that. Take care, you guys. Bye-bye.